I am joined today by Katie Nawrocki and Andrew Garrahan, who are the developers behind Mama Hawk. So thank you guys for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So to begin, do you want to one of you want to pitch Mama Hawk to anybody that's seeing this that hasn't heard of the game?
Sure. So in Mama Hawk, it's a mobile game, and you play as a mother hawk who has to keep her hungry brood of chicks alive by feeding other animals to them. So that is the basic premise. It is a level-based game. There will be approximately 50 levels when we launch, but we're planning to add more. Originally, it started as an arcade game, so we had a horizontal format, and there was a lot of sort of action in each game playthrough. But we wanted to create a level-based world where the behaviors were unique in order to give people more replayability and just more things to discover.
Awesome. So the real thing, I first saw Mama Hawk at Play NYC, and the thing that really got me smiling about this game was the origin story that you guys told me. So would you like to relay where Mama Hawk came from?
So Andrew and I are actually married, and we were attending a another couple's wedding, and it was in the beautiful Hudson Valley. We were surrounded, and there were all these hawks above, and we're like, "Wow, this is amazing!" And I said, "Wow, wouldn't it be cool to make a game based on hawks?" And Andrew was like, "No." How would the game go? And I'm like, well, like it could be like those claw games in supermarkets. And he's like, yeah, that's a stupid idea. And I'm like, oh, come on, it would be so fun. He's like, you know what? Why don't you make it? And I said, okay. Um, can you recommend any? I wanted a female dev because I thought mama, like, will be the mamas who make the game. So I worked with a female dev for a while, and we got very excited about trying to work out the controls, but it became clear after a while that she was a little too junior to build quite the game that I was envisioning, and we got stuck with some of the play mechanics. And so Andrew had pity on the project, and so the girls club was kind of destroyed a little bit, but the game became better. So we've had many people who helped us with it, and it's now a far cry from the claw game that we originally thought we were going to make.
Fantastic. Oh, go ahead, Andrew, if you had something.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna. So yeah, we worked on originally. Like Kati worked with this girl Elena, who was one of my ex students. I also teach game design a little bit, and every Sunday we would actually all work on it. Elena and Kati did most of the stuff in the beginning, and I kind of helped out in the background a little bit. But every Sunday, religiously, we try to kind of work on it a little bit and kind of push the project forward. When you're working on an indie game, you always want to maintain your momentum and focus. So Sunday, we'd always get together and do that, and meet up physically at our place. But the game, we experimented with a lot of different control schemes in the beginning to kind of find something that would be fun and really easy to play on mobile. And just after a year of meeting up, it was like, we told this poor girl, Elena, it would only take like 3 months. We're like, hey, just come on, it'll be 3 months. Like, it'll be great. And then it just kept going on and on. And luckily she was nice enough to continue to work with us. But at the end of the year, we had to kind of let her go because she had other things that she had to work on. And then we were left with like kind of a half, it just wasn't done. So we had to decide what to do with it.
There's been many sprints that we thought were going to be the last sprint. So there were many points where we're like, all right, 6 weeks, and then she launches. And then, of course, at the end of 6 weeks, it's like, oh, yeah, this is so much better. Yeah, but it's not ready to launch.
Yeah.
So we got more ambitious, right? So originally it was supposed to be a smaller game, and it was very much sort of about this crazy idea of making an actually compelling game out of the hawk plus the claw mechanic. But it turned out very quickly that to make a fun game really does take a lot of other things. So as I alluded to earlier, each of the animals in the world has a different behavior. So you actually have to stalk the animals. In the beginning, you just pick them up, but over time you encounter animals that run away from you, that hide from you, that sort of require a little bit of a stealth stealthy kind of attitude to figure them out. And there are enemies as well as prey. So we realized sort of you have to layer things on top of each other just to make it a really fun, varied experience, because otherwise it's just a demo, right? Like, it's fun, but afterwards people go, that was fun, and then they immediately forget about it. So trying to make an experience that will sustain people for, like several hours is a very different project than just trying to make like a quick one.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, that story of Mama Hawk's origins really drew me in, but the thing that caught my eye first was its art style. And the thing I was kind of most interested in is how early you kind of settled on that art style.
So I can show you some examples of what it was originally, what it originally looked like, because it's not very similar to what it looks like now. We looked at a lot of Disney, and I thought, oh, wow, like nothing looks better than the forest and Bambi. And then I started drawing, and I'm like, wow, it looks just like a really crap version of a Disney thing. So that's not the way to go. Actually, so Andrew and I were traveling through India, and I brought my crayons. I have these water-soluble crayons called Carandash, and I was drawing the trees there. And the trees in India are very pretty. So the reason why Persian miniatures have these beautiful trees is because the trees in India are actually very, very strange looking and beautiful. So I started drawing the trees, and I was hoping to somehow use those trees in the artwork for the game, which we were already developing. And so the backgrounds actually came first. And I started developing the forest landscape. And Andrew's, I hadn't really designed the game before. So Andrew was like, okay, you have to do it in pieces. I don't want just like, a landscape. You have to think in a modular fashion. So I started doing those. And then I really wanted the animals to look different from the foreground. And so as I was drawing these bad Disney characters quicker and quicker in my thumbnails, they started to just turn into these like boxes and blobs. And I really liked the way that looked. So I just started making vector versions of those and then turning those into animated sprites. And so that's where the graphics come from.
Cool. You mentioned that this is kind of like evolved over time. The graphics changed. What were some of the other like mechanical parts of the game that have really, looking back at kind of a place where you are now, what's kind of the most surprising things that have changed?
I actually have a prototype I can pull up. This is like a really early prototype. The game was originally called Talon, from like, I guess, the talons on the birds, and then the babies are hungry. But this was super early. That first year we'd worked on it, and we had two different kind of concepts.
So yeah, we had like 3 or 4 different control schemes. So we originally used this sort of straight off the asset store joystick that we thought was great in theory, but then it was quite clunky to move around the screen way. So
this was even earlier than that. This was just like you go left and right, and then you could tap this to go down. But it's basically, so you swipe to go in a direction, and then you tap to kind of pick up an animal.
Very much more like a claw machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Originally, I think we wanted to stay truthful to the claw machine concept, but this didn't allow for a lot of variation in kind of gameplay.
Sure.
So then we moved to something like this demo, this one, the joystick demo, which gives you a lot more freedom, and you can kind of attack the space more. You have a lot more choice what to do.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
And I'll send you some of the early art as well, so you can kind of show that. But yeah, it definitely was much clunkier and jankier, and also not as fun in the beginning. But it was still a fun game. It was just not, you can see the.
Here's also like some super early. This is like the early title screen. We wanted Mama like caressing this egg because she's like She loves her eggs so much that she'll kill other animals to allow them to survive. And this has some of the Kati's art style in this one. Let me.
The deer's moonwalking.
Yeah. Oops. Joystick controls. There, I'm not going to move around a little bit. But you can start to see, like, we've got the crayon trees, and we have the mountains. So this kind of style of vector art with the crayon drawn background art. Oops.
I should clarify that what we're looking at right now is already more than a year in. So it took us a long time just to do the controls. Like, Andrew was not kidding, like every Sunday, like clockwork, we would meet up. And so it took us several months to do the control scheme. And then we slowly progressed. And so what you just saw was after about a year.
Wow. Well, it's cool to see the progression, both in the art style and the mechanics. It's always something I really enjoy seeing, kind of what parts of the game develop. We've talked to some developers where it's like the art style was done within the first couple weeks and then it was all mechanical work, or vice versa. So it's cool to see how a game like this evolves. So turning kind of from talking about the game itself to talking about your experience as an indie dev, what was it that drew both of you to independent game development?
Let's see. Well, I kind of led the interest in that. So I've, I guess, done a lot of video game programming off and on for the past 10 years. I used to do video games for a company called OMG Pop, or I'm in Like With You. They were a big Flash site in the middle 2000s, and I did a bunch of their Flash games. These were like multiplayer Flash games. I did one called Putt Putt Penguin, where you're like it's like a miniature golf game where you are the ball, like, and you're a penguin that tries to like slide on the ice in the hole, and there's like obstacle courses. But I made a bunch of games for them, and then we started our own kind of gaming company about 4 years ago, which is Computer Lunch, with the goal to kind of for us to be able to collaborate and make projects on our own. So I'm like a visual programmer or a game designer and programmer, and then Kati, you have an artistic background also.
Yep. Yeah, so I actually studied fine arts, so my background was not in games at all, except when Andrew and I started dating, I was working on a children's book, and we were recording, so he came up with the scheme of making an interactive book together, and that one had as its style like watercolor paper, and I can send you examples of that. But it had cutout watercolors, and they really lent themselves to animation. Oh, cool. And so he gave me the assignment of designing mini games within the story that he could then program. And so he was doing iOS programming at the time. So we put out 2 Pookie, there's a hedgehog, interactive, and we called them interactive bedtime stories because we didn't want to call them picture book, and like this was like 5 years ago, so it's it took a while for that market to really mature. But yeah, so I didn't really get involved with the gaming part until I was already like working on interactive things with him, and then I also have a day job where I do creative things and work with technology. So there was some confluence, but the indie scene I had no idea about until Andrew brought me in, and I love the people and the supportiveness of the people in it. Like here in New York in particular, we have a very, very supportive network of people, and we play each other's games.
Well, with this game specifically, so I made a couple. I made like a few Endless Runner games for the iOS store, and then Kati had always like helped out a little bit with the graphics, or like I'd be working on. Then you would do like the textures on the 3D models, or you do like the store artwork, or in one of the games we did Sidewalker, you did all these great pixel illustrations of like the boss and stuff. But it had always been mostly like my ideas. And so I think for a while you were like, you wanted to have like your idea on one of these games. And
Well, Andrew's philosophy was you're not allowed to contribute ideas until you've actually gotten addicted to games. So he made it his mission to immerse me in gaming, and so he would I would come home from work and he would say, "All right, so this is Diablo. Put your hand here. Here's some water. See if you like it." And so then the next day I'd be like, "All right, where's that Diablo game?" And he's like, "No, no, no. So today you're going to play something called GTA, okay?" And then you would, so he would find different games, and then depending on if I responded well to them, he would either find new ones or he would let me try it out and sort of explain like what the genre is and sort of the difference between like, different kinds of games. And it was actually a really wonderful way of discovering my own taste in games, because while we have aesthetically similar ideas, I think in terms of games we do tend towards different genres. Like I am more of a proxy for a casual player. I like puzzle games, and I have a little bit of a tower defense habit, and I might or might not have installed, deleted, and reinstalled all the Kingdom Rushes several times, because after beating them on advanced mode, I wanted to play them again. So whereas I don't think Andrew's more of a PC sort of hardcore.
Yeah, I'm more of like, I usually make action games or like arcade style games where it's a little bit of a twitch or movement thing, like
Dark Souls.
Well, Dark Souls is great, but they're like a platforming game. Most of my games are like action oriented. So this Mama Hawk does have kind of a side-scrolling kind of action mechanic at its core, and I think that's kind of me bringing a lot of my taste in games. Whereas I think for another game in Kati, we're going to leave the gameplay of it. I think probably something more in the puzzle or strategy area would be.
Yeah, I love strategy games. Although I will say, once we started refining the game specifically for mobile, because it was a pretty big decision for us to move away from PC and towards really investigating how to make it a compelling mobile game, because there are just different. The use cases are just different, right? You have to sort of engage people in a different way. And once we started doing that, there is sort of that stealth and puzzly kind of element, right, where you have to figure out how to catch the gopher or how to avoid the crows, right? And it's something that you figure out by playing it, and hopefully getting killed in a delightful way does make you want to replay it as well.
This leads perfectly into one of the other questions we always like to ask Dev. So what for each of you were some of the really inspirational games, indie or not, and recent or not, that kind of, if you look back as your history as a gamer, were the ones that you're like, that's kind of what I want to make. That's what got me into the process.
Sure. I mean, I can go first. So, I've always loved games. I guess Super Mario World's probably my all-time favorite. It's kind of smack dab in the middle of like all video games, but that's a big cornerstone of like my philosophy of games. Then I don't know. I love first-person shooters. I don't really make any of those. I find that I don't really make the type of games that I enjoy playing per se. Like when you're a developer, there's like, it's fun making a game. Like it's fun. That's why we're mostly doing it because it's fun to make video games. So like, if that's our driving force? Like some type of games are more fun. Like for me, like action games or things where there's a little bit of physics and movement is a lot of fun for me to kind of watch things like bounce off of other stuff, and that type of thing excites me the most.
I really liked Plants vs. Zombies.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I also think graphically, like there's something about the tone of it that I think is incredibly compelling. The humor in it, the invention, it feels like a really big world, even though it all takes place on like a suburban backyard or front yard. So I really, I admire the craftsmanship of it, like the graphics, but also it's just incredibly fun. Like it's super, super addictive. And it helped that like I had just gotten a an iPad and played it for the first time. So yeah, that was definitely one that got me very excited. And then a game that I have played, much to Andrew's annoyance, a lot is Drop 7. So Drop 7 is definitely my crack. I play it whenever I'm mad because the subway's late or whatever. It's a perfect game, and I never get sick of it. It's amazing.
Great. So one other question I want to ask, where we have both of you guys here, is about the realities of being a development couple, of being married and making games together. Obviously, you don't have to go into any specifics or anything. It's kind of a personal question, but I wondered if you might talk about some of the things that you've found that are very helpful about being in a relationship and making games together, and maybe some of the things that were unexpected hurdles.
I can talk especially about the things that are helpful. Andrew and I are both very, very, very opinionated, especially when it comes to aesthetics. We're definitely snobs in our respective areas, but our taste is similar. So we both enjoy things that have sort of a zany sense of humor, like things that are surreal. We both like pop art, things that have very bright colors. We like a certain type of polish. So things that just have good craftsmanship. And so because we agree on those things and we both have really high standards, I think it's easier to collaborate, because at the end of the day, even if we get in each other's way, the solution each of us finds is likely to be acceptable to the other person, which I think would be very difficult if I didn't respect his aesthetics. Like, to me, it's just so important that things have a certain tone, and it helps. Like, a typical date for Andrew and me is, we'll each have a beer and we'll be on our laptops. Right? That's like our romance.
Yeah, we do. Like, we're both, I guess, from like we both studied art to some extent, and we really like creating stuff. So whether it's drawing or doing some programming, so we really enjoy the creation process. So like some couples will, I don't know, play sports together, or I mean, we watch a ton of movies together. But whatever couples do when they're together, like one thing we really like to do is just create stuff, and we like to do that together. So luckily we have different skill sets. So Kati can do illustration and art direction and thinking about ideas, and then I can like build little things. So we have a lot of common ground.
We're also both workaholics, which I think helps, because making indie games, for anyone who's ever embarked on that, it's so much work.
We also, with the business stuff, we also kind of split the tasks up. Like I don't really like doing events that much, especially like planning for events. Whereas Kati's really big to like going to like things like PAX or MagFest, and you're obsessed with like swag stuff, like buttons, and you bought these tights for the game that are like themed. So you get all these crazy like themed things. Like this shirt, for example, that I'm wearing. This is one of, I mean, most people have shirts, but this is like.
Well, I really like creating a world. So in my mind, I'm designing a theme park, right? So our booth is a theme park. So, and I'll send you photos of it, but it's like a woodland diorama, right? Like the inspiration was like the Museum of Natural History, and sort of the idea of like a little like reading nook for little kids, like in the like Pooh's Corner or something. So the idea is like we have these little stools that look like tree stumps. So I get very excited about sort of finding a way of making a portable version of something like that, so that when people enter into it, they really feel like they're inside that world. Because, mobile games are kind of introverted sort of things, and it's a little awkward to be at a place like PAX East or, any place or Play NYC and sort of commit to being introverted for several minutes while your friends are like, oh, we want to get some French fries over there. So unless you can kind of hook them in, it's hard to get people to really commit to that experience. And so we like to, or I like to think about ways of making it a destination, not just sort of, a PC with, a tablecloth.
That's cool. It's cool to see like how you've taken each other's strengths and kind of ferried them together, I guess. So final question that we ask every dev we ever talk to is, what other indie games out there, either in development or they've kind of come out recently, are doing or have done something really cool that has captured your attention as a dev?
I really like a game called Limelight by Brett Taylor. My Dog Zorro, I think. It looks very, very simple, but it's really well designed. Looks amazing. He's part of the New York indie scene. Very talented puzzle developer or creator of experiences. So I like his thing.
That's cool. And what about you, Andrew? Any indie games sticking out?
I don't know so much about indie games. Maybe. There's just so many good games out there. Like any direction, you could literally like spin around and just walk in any direction and find a ton of great games. I like I said, I played a lot of first-person shooters, and I love the whole like the PUBG kind of space, which has just exploded. It's not indie at all, but it started from kind of an indie space actually.
Yeah,
it was like
it's
a mod and
I think technically Bluehole actually meets the definition of indie. It's a whole discussion on whether or not you can be indie and have that many millions of players at one time, but
yeah, and the cool thing is like it's like new gameplay mechanics that like breed a whole new genre of like innovation. One, I don't know if you'd call like idle games indie either, but I really love all the like the cookie clickers of the world, or there's a game called Venture Capitalism. Right now I'm trying to start a mini project of my own, a little idle game, so I'm kind of working on that. But I love to see like new genres being born because it's so. It's just like it's new. Like I haven't seen that before, and so any new genre that kind of sparks my.
I want to also plug. Andrew has a Game of the Month club, so it's like a book club but for games, and so it's a great excuse to either play the game or more frowned upon but more common, watch the playthrough. And that's monthly at Baby Castles here in New York City. But it's a good way of sort of exposing. Like I know that Andrew played a lot of games that he otherwise wouldn't have played, because of that.
Cool. Well, awesome. Kati and Andrew, thank you for giving us a little bit of a window into Mamahawk's development and to your own journey as indie devs. We'll have links below to Mamahawk and everything we've talked about here.
Thank you so much for having us on.